I'm Grace Torie, and you're listening to That Girl the Podcast. Grab a beverage of choice and settle in, because the new episode is starting now. What's up, you guys? It's your girl, Grace Torie, and I'm back with a whole new podcast episode. If you're a returning listener, then I'm sure you noticed I didn't post a episode on Wednesday. So this episode, I don't know what I'm going to title it yet, but it's going to kind of be about that. I talked about it a little bit on the Instagram, so if you're not following, make sure to follow so that you get those updates. Basically what this episode is going to be about is burnout and what to do when you kind of hit that rock bottom burnout feeling and things along those lines. So if that's something that interests you, stick around because we are diving into it. I'm not really going to have a life update because I feel like the life update ties in really well with what we're talking about for the entire episode. Like, I burnt out and here I am. I will actually say a couple things just to kind of keep you up to date on what is going on in my life, but nothing too crazy. A quick little life update, if you'll even call it that, is we're going to my sister's baby shower. She's having her second baby, so we're gonna go do that. And that's really it for my life right now. I'm gonna explain why I don't have a lot going on that is intentional, other than obviously the Taylor Swift concert coming up on June 30th. So if you're going to that, hey, we should meet up. But other than that, everything else is already kind of incorporated into the episode, so let's just go ahead and jump in. So basically what I mentioned a second ago is that I did not post on Wednesday because I hit quote-unquote rock bottom. But I think the biggest lesson I took away from that is what you think is rock bottom, like your worst fear, all of these bad things happening, is not actually your rock bottom. It's really not as bad as you think, like your worst fear coming true. Obviously, it's not my worst fear in terms of like my family or things like that, but just on a day-to-day basis, everything going wrong, really, really, really wrong, and not being able to just get a solution is what I'm talking about. That kind of rock bottom. I really just thought that was the bottom, couldn't get any worse, and it really helped me to practice like gratitude in that moment, because obviously I did not want to be very grateful. I just was like, this is awful, this is absolutely the worst possible thing that could happen, this is my worst fear, I feel like this has been happening for a long time, and it's been coming for a long time, I should have seen signs, I should have done something. And having that mindset is not really going to fix anything. So having to shift my mindset to one of, you know, even in moments like this, I still have things I can be grateful for. Everybody's healthy for the most part. Everybody's kicking in. You know, I still am able to provide food and water for my animals. They're all good. They're safe. So just grasping onto whatever gratitude I can find. That was kind of a big lesson for me. But basically what happened was, and I'm not going to go into exact details of what went wrong because I just don't want to talk about it. Like, it's not something I feel like I need to talk about to enhance this episode or make it any better. And it's just like personal, so I'm not going to go there. But basically, after putting so much pressure on myself since I graduated from graduate school in May of last year, and constantly feeling like until I hit these unrealistic goals that I set for myself in a short period of time, unless, like, if I didn't do that, I'm not good enough, I'm not meeting where I need to be, I'm behind on life. If I don't do that, I'm just not, I'm basically the worst. After over a year of that, I essentially gave up. I just said, I'm done. I'm not doing anything that I am being told to do. Other than, like, obviously at work, but, like, in my life, I'm not doing any responsibilities other than the necessities, but I just decided to stop. Like, I just need to stop existing as much as possible and do whatever I want. So I gave up temporarily. So no more social media, no more podcasting, no more Etsy, no more being so stressed about if I don't work out or I don't eat a certain way or I don't call so-and-so or make sure I hang out with this person or make sure that this is done a certain way. I was done. None of that. I was out. If I gave up. I took all pressure off of myself and said, as long as I'm eating, drinking, all the animals are taken care of, then that's it. I don't need, the house doesn't need to be clean by a certain time. This doesn't need to be done by a certain time. I don't need to go and buy this for this person, call this person, make sure this is done. All of that, if I could take it off my plate, I did. So basically, this is mainly about the art of giving up and why it is good in certain times. And like I said, it's not permanent. It's just giving up temporarily. And kind of switching the subject a little bit, I wrote like a whole essay that I'm reading kind of and pulling things from right now yesterday, and it's about this. Obviously, I was just kind of putting my thoughts onto paper for this episode. But if I'm like, oh, switching subject, it's because it made sense in the essay. I had a nice little transition line there, and I didn't say that because I'm not reading the script word for word. But one thing that I've really been trying to figure out for actually a long time that I explored further and I guess got a little bit further with during this whole experience is that I think that there's a fine line between who you are and who you wish you were or who you want to be, however you want to phrase it. And when there's constantly these manifesting trends going around, like lucky girl syndrome, law of assumption, where they tell you, just be delusional. Be delusional, act like you already are that person, just pretend that you are and that's who you'll become. Just be so delusional and convince yourself that you are that person, and then when you convince yourself, you'll become them. While I think there is some truth to that, it makes it really, really hard to kind of accept the differences. Like, I'm not the person that I want to be one day. I don't own a business. I don't podcast full time. I don't have my dream home that I built in the countryside. Like, I'm not there yet. And it does pay off to be delusional to a certain extent and say, like, I am capable of those things for sure. And if it happened tomorrow, I would be totally open to it, stoked, excited, ready to go. It was getting so stressful to constantly be like, no, you're not allowed to have a negative thought and kind of accept reality. You need to constantly believe this certain thing. So I'm at the point that I don't know who I am. I don't even know how to differentiate between who I want to be and who I am because I don't know who I am anymore. And I know that I'm not who I want to become yet, but it took giving up on everything and sitting down for just 2 seconds without panicking and thinking about the next thing that's going to happen to realize that it's okay to not know who I am. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to not be where I want to be yet at 24. I'm not behind. I'm not ahead. I'm just here. It's okay. I don't have a plan. Honestly, I've had one. I've been on this plan that I've been working towards, and I kept saying, you know, if I work really, really hard, then everything else is going to come. And while there's a certain truth to that, it just isn't working, and I can't just continue down this path. So I kind of threw out the plan, and that was part of giving up, is saying, okay, this isn't working. I'm throwing out the game plan, and I'm going to have to curate a new one. It's just, I don't have a plan, and I just know that the path I'm on isn't what I want. It's not going to get me to where I want to be, and I'm giving up. And this kind of probably sounds like I'm giving up the podcast. I'm not giving up the podcast. This is a part of what I want to be and where I want to go, and I know for a fact I want this to be here for a long, long time. So I'm mainly talking about, I don't even know what I'm talking about yet because I haven't even figured out the game plan. I'm still working on that. I'm still strategizing. So I don't know what's gonna stay, what's gonna go, what's gonna get more of my time, what's gonna get less of my time, because I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't really sat down. I've still been in give up mode, but I'm slowly coming out of it. So let's slow down. I don't mean permanently give up. It's more temporary. I mean, just stop doing what you're doing for a few days and take all the tension, pressure, and responsibility off of your shoulders. Like I mentioned, anything besides what's necessary, and I really want you to be honest with yourself on what is actually necessary, is removed off of your plate. This isn't something that you should do every weekend. Like, this isn't something you should be constantly doing. Like, every time something goes wrong, I'm just gonna give up. No, this is like a last resort. You're so burnt out, you feel like you're gonna go literally insane if you don't do something, but you don't know what. This is what I did because I was there. I don't really know if there's like a routine where you should just give up a certain amount of time. It's just what I had to do. It's what I had to do to kind of gain some of my sanity back, because I literally felt like I was going crazy from being burnt out for so long and slowly burning out and slowly getting to that point. So I guess the most freeing thing out of this whole experience is admitting out loud that I don't know everything, and it's kind of a waste of time to pretend I do, like I have been for so long. I know this entire podcast, like the whole basis of this podcast is giving people, specifically women, advice in their 20s. But as you know, I also started this podcast in a place where I felt really, really lost. Like, I didn't know what I was doing, and I needed to find a community of women who also felt that way so that we could figure it out together. So there's gonna be some days where I feel like I have everything figured out and I'm gonna share it with you and be like, okay guys, this is what you need to do. And then there's gonna be some days where I don't know, and I'm doing my best, and I'm gonna share that what I do know with you, but I don't know. Like, we're figuring this all out together. I don't really have any concrete advice that's gonna be like if you do this, I guarantee that you're gonna be better, your burnout's gonna go away, acne's gonna be cleared, you're gonna lose 10 pounds. Like, I don't have advice for that right now. But all I can tell you is that it's gonna be okay, even if it doesn't feel like it. And we're all figuring this out together. And rock bottom isn't actually your rock bottom, I promise. Which is why giving up, even though you feel like it, isn't actually giving up forever. It's just finding a new game plan. I don't know what mine is. I probably won't share it with you once I find it, because I never share my game plans because they're constantly changing and they're very personal to me and my exact situation. But maybe the game plan is to not have one and just see what happens. I've never been that kind of person. I've always had a plan, whether that's go to school, graduate, get a degree, or whether that's very, very detailed down to the minute. I've always had a plan, so maybe I just won't have one for a while. You know, like I mentioned, this is not giving up forever. It's just resting to allow yourself that mental ability to find a new game plan, because I felt like I was so burnt out, I didn't have the mental capacity to do that. So I'm gonna leave you with a quote. I don't know how long this episode is. It's probably so short. I'm so sorry, you guys. But with the quote, it's one that I've said in this podcast before. Whenever I start feeling this way, I feel like it's always good to bring this quote back up because I really like it. It's just try on lives until you find one that fits. So if it's not working, it's not fitting quite right, give up, take a break, and move on to the next. That is what your 20s are for. So I'm gonna leave you with that. If you don't mind leaving a rating and review, it means the absolute world to me. It gets my podcast to more people who would hopefully want to join the community. If you're interested, we're a community of women who work to find the best version of ourselves, whatever the best version means to you. It could be very different from mine. It could be the same as mine. We're all just doing our best out here together. If you want to follow me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever podcast you are listening on, whatever podcast platform, excuse me, go ahead and do that. My links are down below. My bunny is making all kinds of noises, so I'm gonna hop off of here. I love you so, so much. I upload every single Sunday and Wednesday. If you're watching this on a Sunday, I hope you have a great night. If you're watching this on any other day, I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or night. And I will see you in my next podcast episode. Bye guys, love you.